Hey guys, welcome to Ron and Roger's Dr. Pepper Pup. This is our first podcast on this channel. We'll be doing lots of more podcasts, mostly movie related. Maybe some other videos will be coming. That's all up to you. If you got any ideas we could or things we could do on this channel, just let us know in the comments. Today we'll be reviewing, discussing everything about Spider-Man 2. As always, or in this case for the first time, I'm joined by Ron. How are you, Ron?
Woo! I'm Ron. I don't know. Okay, well, I'm going to do that again. What's up? It's Ron. That's probably better than woo into the mic.
Anyway, today we'll be discussing Spider-Man 2. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. I've loved this movie ever since I was a child, just like the first one. Yeah, it's just great. I mean, for most people, it's their favorite movie from the trilogy, from the Holy Trilogy, as some people say, as some people call it. What is this your favorite in the trilogy?
It actually isn't. I've heard that a lot of people prefer this in more than the other two. My favorite's actually the first one. I sort of like how Spider-Man 2 is actually the only one of the three that kind of ends on like a happy note. And Spider-Man 1, to me, I just sort of enjoy that more because it ends with him sort of because it's not, he doesn't end happily. It's like, I enjoy the aspect where he's putting his own personal life aside to be Spider-Man and be the hero.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I don't still know really why, but Spider-Man 1 is also my favorite. I enjoyed the most. It was the first Spider-Man movie I ever saw. I have just more nostalgia for it. That probably plays a big part on why I prefer this over the second one. But of course, Spider-Man 2 is great. I mean, I love Dr. Octopus. I mean, how can you not love that guy? I mean, he's such a great villain. You can definitely tell Alfred Molina had so much fun behind the scenes, filming and everything. I mean, when he drops on Maine, he's just like Butterfingers. You can.
Fingers.
It's like he means it, you know. He just smiles with it, and it's just so awesome to see.
I also like the fight scenes in Spider-Man 2. I felt like they were like Spider-Man 1 sort of had a gimmick where, I mean, there's always it's not that it wasn't a good fight scenes, weren't good fight scenes, but it's that in Spider-Man 1 it always felt like there was something else going on when Spider-Man was fighting Green Goblin. Like the first time it's, they're at the parade and Spider-Man can't really go full throttle because there are people around. Then there's they're in the burning building and they can't really, Spider-Man's trying to rescue him and Green Goblin gets the drop. Whereas when it's Doc Ock or Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2, they're on an open train. There's a lot more room for them to kind of move around.
Yeah, right. Also the CGI. I mean, the CGI in this movie is so good. It's better than Spider-Man Homecoming. I mean, in Spider-Man Homecoming, there were a lot of memes like, look at the new Spider-Man PS4 game. But it was just like a new still from the movie. Which was kind of funny to me. But like the CGI, when he's crawling walls, especially in the fight scene where he tries to rescue Aunt May after the whole bank robbery scene, the CGI looks real. It's like it's an actual stunt.
Yeah, I like that. I liked how the fights went too, because there was suspense in it. Like there's the one part where they're fighting on the train, and then Doc Ock sort of just disappears, and then Spider-Man's crawling, and then you see like his tentacle move around the train. You have no idea where he is. Like there's a moment where in a theater you don't know what's happening, and I really like that aspect of it too.
Yeah, same. And I don't know if I've mentioned this in our Spider-Man 16th anniversary podcast, but Tobey Maguire's participation in this film was actually in doubt because he had some injuries on his back or something. And it was actually gonna be replaced by Jake Gyllenhaal. But still, he actually wanted to play Spider-Man or Peter Parker. So I think that's just an amazing story on how he wanted to do this. He really did want to do this. He really had, he really loved being Peter Parker. And according to the DVD commentary, the "my back" joke after Peter falls from the roof wasn't even that was just coincidental. That wasn't even a behind the scenes kind of joke because he had actual back injuries or something. That was actually just
that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
yeah, me too. And especially when you like know this behind the scenes stuff about him having back injuries or something, that just makes it even more funny to me. And I like so many.
I liked the one when he's I think I mentioned this in the last episode, but in our previous podcast, but I was almost heartbroken because I found out that during the filming, Tobey Maguire was he was vegetarian. It was vegan or vegetarian. I don't remember which one. So he wouldn't eat meat. So the scene with him eating a hot dog, that's actually tofu.
What?
I was like that just broke one of the that changed the way I view the scene forever now.
No way. Where did you read that or hear that?
I read that on like a trivia site for the movie.
I didn't even know that.
That was,
My God. I'm having a trivia on IMDb. What did you say?
That really took me by surprise. I was like, it's like a small detail, but I was like, man, I love the scene where he's eating the hot dogs, you know?
Yeah, me too.
There's like 3 ambulances going by. He doesn't care.
And he just shoves this entire hot dog in his mouth. My God,
he gives up the walk on. Instead he's like a super eater or some crap.
My childhood is a lie right now. Oh my God.
Everything you thought about Spider-Man is wrong.
I'm having the trivia in front of me on the IMDb page right now, actually. And it also says, like the scene where Peter's having dinner with Dr. Octopus and his wife was intended as a sad mirror of the family life that Peter wants but can never have. Now, I like the idea of that. But having seen this as a kid a million times, this scene never really had that much of an impact on me because you're a kid and you just want to watch the action and everything. If I'd watch it for the first time now, I might have seen it. I might realize that this should be referring to the family he never really had. But when I was a kid, I never really noticed that, of course.
Yeah, Doc Ock is sort of like before he goes sort of crazy or whatever. That I really enjoy that scene because there's good storytelling in it. There's comedy in it, and there's also like some emotion in it, where he can kind of see. You can almost see, now that you mentioned that, like Uncle Ben and Aunt May in Alfred and his wife.
Yeah, right.
Alfred and the Lady.
Right. Yeah, and Stanley originally filmed the cameo of the man who shouts, "Hey, Spider-Man stole that guy's pizza." Now, they misspelled it over here because it's, "Hey, he stole that guy's pizza," not, "Hey, Spider-Man stole that guy's pizza." But you can just hear Stanley say, "Hey, Spider-Man stole the guy's pizza." You can hear him say that more. I hear him say that instead of, "Hey, he stole that guy's pizza," because for some reason he says Spider-Man a lot, and I'd rather see him say, "Hey, Spider-Man stole that guy's pizza," instead of, "Hey, he stole that guy's pizza." But because
Yeah.
of problems with this shot, it was refilmed with another actor, and Lee was given a different but heroic cameo.
I
Yeah,
think in I think in both Spider-Man 1 and 2, Stan Lee played sort of just like a random guy saving someone from like debris.
yeah, like running away, and I would have preferred to see like, hey, Spider-Man stole the guy's pizzas over a brick
Yeah.
falling to him and saving someone.
Yeah.
Because
I think Stan Lee does better in sort of in comedy cameos.
yeah, right. Because I mean, it flies by so fast. It's like 1 second of him looking up and dragging someone away from like a brick falling, and
Yeah.
I just wanted us to see more in like Spider-Man 3. His cameo in that movie is probably my favorite, just because it's
Yeah.
it has more to it, and it's not just 1 second of him pulling someone away. Although it's kind of cool to see him save someone and being a hero himself, of course. But I would have preferred to see, hey, Spider-Man stole that guy's pizza. That would have actually been kind of funny.
Yeah, I like in Spider-Man 3 probably the most of the series, because his cameo, I mean, he has a memorable line, but also it sort of affects the story, because it's like he makes Peter realize how much of an impact being Spider-Man really has.
Right. Yeah, it's true. And I'm having the trivia in front of me right now. I've probably already said that, I'm not sure. But the alley scene where Peter dumps his Spider-Man suit is supposed to be the same one where he kissed MJ upside down in the first film. Now,
Oh, that's it. I never noticed that.
no, me too, but it doesn't look anything like it. Because the alley where he kissed MJ is much wider, right?
Yeah.
And the
Maybe on the 2 years, like the two buildings got closer together or something.
some earthquake between the two buildings. But
It shifted to just those two buildings.
I always thought the alley where he dumps his suit is the same alley where he falls downwards when he loses his powers and everything and tries to get him back. I always thought that was the same alley, but it isn't, I think. I mean, that one looks a lot more like it to me.
I wonder how he got home from there.
Yeah, me
'Cause, I mean,
too.
you have to figure he's at least like at minimum like 5 blocks from home. Okay, and then how do you get home in a Spider-Man suit? If he doesn't have any spare clothes, then he doesn't have any powers. So is he just gonna like walk home in the Spider-Man outfit and just hope no one sees him?
Or like the scene where he falls, where he's like swinging after like MJ's and John's wedding or something, or where they announce they're gonna be having a wedding where they're gonna marry each other. But after that, when he swings and falls down on that building, it's extremely weird because like he's just down there and he's like, oh, that's really high and everything, and then he goes inside the building. But how does he get inside the building? I mean, I can't imagine
He learned how to pick locks.
Exactly.
Spider powers.
And out of nowhere, he's in this elevator with the TV show guy or something.
Yeah. How sports.
Yeah, right. I've never seen any of his TV show episodes.
He was in like one thing on Disney. That's the only thing I know him from. Like one weird Disney show.
According to Alfred Molina, the stunt team would often trick him into performing a stunt. So sometimes he didn't even want to do a stunt. He's like, "Oh no, I'm not gonna do that shit. That's way too terrifying to me." But then the stunt team just tricked him into doing that. That's quite funny to me.
That's a pretty funny one. I can imagine him just like, oh, you're just gonna do this just to practice. Like, all right, and that's in the final cut. Like him like screaming or something. I've seen some of the bloopers where like, because when he was when they were filming, I think they used like a wire to lift him up, and then I don't know about 100% of this, but I think some people, like individual people, would operate the arms, and there's one where the wire lifts him up out of like the little puddle lake thing, whatever, in the final scene.
And he's like,
And
nothing can stand in our way.
And then he just like starts spinning around, or like he puts his foot and like he steps in like misses his footing, just random stuff like that.
You know why Danny Elfman didn't do the Spider-Man 3 score, the theme?
What is that?
I didn't notice. It doesn't say that's the reason, but I think so. Yeah, well, it kind of says it over here, but it says Danny Elfman, who did the film score for this and several other Raimi films, like Darkman, which is a great film. I highly recommend that film, had some sort of falling out with the director during the course of this film, and has been quoted saying, "To see such a profound negative change in a human being was almost enough to make me feel like I don't want to make films anymore." However, Raimi and Elfman reunited 9 years later for Oz the Great and Powerful. So actually, Danny Elfman and Sam Raimi's friendship kind of stopped for a while, which I didn't know. Now, to be honest, my favorite score is the one for Spider-Man 3. The soundtrack sounds amazing to me, but that's mostly because I just love the Sandman and Venom soundtrack. These sound really great.
Me too.
I just love the Sandman theme song because it sounds, just when you hear it, you kind of think about sand immediately, which is just great to me.
And it has that like villainous sound to it, you know.
Exactly,
like you could just hear just the music, and it shifts from like the heroic tone of the original, and then it's like.
Exactly, it's like all dark and loud and everything. And
this is Spider-Man's song.
So when J. Jonah Jameson offers the scruffy man $50 for the Spider-Man costume, he replies, "I could get more for it on eBay." In 2001, 4 Spider-Man costumes were stolen from the set of the first Spider-Man movie. They were eventually recovered after an 18-month investigation and the arrest of a former movie studio security guard and an accomplice. While Columbia Pictures offered a $25 reward for information leading to their return, movie memorabilia experts estimated the value of the costume as about $50,000 each.
Oh man, he should have went on eBay.
Exactly. But I've read the novelization for Spider-Man 2, and when he leaves, as described over here, scruffy man, he goes to Betty to like get some money to get like the $50, but she gives him way more. She gives him like $1,000 or something from J. Jonah Jameson's account, I think. But it's a while since I've read it, but I do remember that, and I quite like that actually, because $50 is so. That's not a lot for the actual Spider-Man costume.
Oh no, he would make more than that probably in like one day.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I knew this. This was kind of a quite fun trivia. The phone number on Peter's helmet for Joe's Pizzeria is to a real New York pizza place.
Oh yeah, I heard that. I heard that it's an actual that Joe's Pizza was an actual pizza shop. Like and they had a sign there. You may have seen us in Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
because I wanted to go. I really want to go to New York someday. And if I do, I would love to do like a Spider-Man trilogy hunt where I just go to movie places. For example, for Spider-Man, of course, but also for a lot of other movies. But I just want to eat a pizza over there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the pizza was made, where Peter says pizza time.
Yeah. That's probably the best thing in the in the movie. My favorite line.
Me too, yeah. Probably in the entire trilogy, even. I mean, pizza time is just an iconic quote.
I'm considering getting like one of the T-shirts on that.
Yeah, because on like I saw a T-shirt of that on like Redbubble.com or something. I think it was on that site, and I and I love that shirt. I mean, it's just you see him standing there, and underneath you have like pizza time. Great shirt, great line. I considered buying that a few months ago as well.
I would go to Joe's Pizza, get like the 6 extra large deep dish pizzas. I wonder if we get there in 29 minutes though.
Yeah, because I mean that's almost impossible. I mean, as Spider-Man, you can't even make it. And like,
Yeah.
what if the elevator is like at the top of the building?
Just don't deliver it. Just don't deliver it. Say like no one was home or something.
Rosemary Harris enjoyed doing her own stunts. Alvin Molina did it because he claims he's not very good at them, and he doesn't like taking work away from real stuntmen. Now, we already had this other trivia about how stuntmen tricked him into doing his stunts. So, he doesn't like taking work away from them. It's probably just an excuse because he's afraid. I mean, if they trick him into doing it, why would he not like to take work away from the real stuntman?
Yeah. Like I would have been like, screw you guys, you duped me.
The original title for the second spin was The Amazing Spider-Man, a title eventually used when the series was rebooted. Now, I didn't know this yet. I mean, the Spider-Man 2 makes more sense to me. The Amazing Spider-Man, I don't like that. I really do prefer Spider-Man 2, so what we got eventually.
Yeah, I'm glad with how the titles went because I mean, I like Spider-Man 1. I just like Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3 because it's easier to follow. Where it's like there's some instances where I would have preferred that, but with the way the trilogy went, it feels better to just do Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3.
Exactly. And the titles also had like a little text to go with it, so they considered calling it Spider-Man No More, which I would like to see, but I'd rather have it Spider-Man 2 No More. It was also considered being called Spider-Man 2 Lives or Spider-Man Unmasked. Now, I don't like Unmasked because he's like unmasked in one scene in the train, but for the rest he's like not unmasked at all. Like if you go unmasked in public, like in one comic book, then I would have liked this title, but I don't like it with the movie itself, like what we got. I mean, it's like unmasked for like 10 seconds.
What'd you say?
He's like unmasked for like 10 seconds in the train, nothing more.
Yeah. I sort of like Spider-Man 2 because all it tells you about the movie is, it's the second Spider-Man. It's not like, Spider-Man 2, like, unmasked. I mean, aside from not even having anything to, like, being realistic to or not really connecting to the movie's plot because he's, like, as you said, barely unmasked for the movie. But I don't know, I just sort of like Spider-Man 2 because you go into the movie a little bit more blind, where you don't know, like, what the situation is. You just kind of watch the movie. And to me, when you can see a movie without, or like with the minimum trailer, you sort of get almost like a blind, going in blind, you enjoy it more.
Exactly, because, unmasked and everything like that, your expectations are different. Like with Spider-Man 2, your expectations are, oh, it's Spider-Man, and it's the second installment in the series. And with
Yeah.
Spider-Man Unmasked, you're kind of like, oh, so he's gonna be unmasked, awesome, and then you get this 10-second scene in the train, and it will be disappointing.
Like, all right, put the mask back on. I mean, there's the people in the train find out, MJ finds out, and Harry finds out. I mean, Doc Ock finds out, but he dies, so I wouldn't really count him. But I think it Unmasked is just too much of a stretch to be to make it into the title.
Right, and now I didn't know this trivia yet. It might have been in a novelization, but I just forgot it. But this deleted scene, man, this is this is dark. The violinist who crops up throughout the movie, surrounding Spider-Man, had an additional scene that was deleted from the film. When Harry hears her from the balcony of his father's townhouse, he pours a glass of scotch on her. My God.
I would like to see that. I would like to see that.
I mean, she's all like, a Spider-Man, and then Harry's like, oh, fuck off. And he's like, oh no. My God, if they had like footage of that, I would have loved to see that happen. And just like the scene where J. Jonah Jameson puts on Spider-Man's suit, it's so random, and I'm glad they deleted it from the film. But I'm happy that they still have the footage, because I like watching Spider-Man 2.1 once in a while. And I especially just like that scene because it's just so random and unnecessary to the story. What do you say?
I would say that's probably the best deleted scene.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it adds nothing to the story, but it's just so freaking funny.
So funny.
It's almost like a so bad it's good scene.
Yeah. Plus, it's a good contrast from like having him totally hate Spider-Man, and then you see him like with all the blinds closed, he's in the office like just webbing around, knocking stuff over.
For the hospital scene, the production crew had to build tentacles that were 13 feet long. When looking at the finished scene, the designers couldn't tell that was CGI and what was puppetry. The combined effects were so seamless to the naked eye. The designers were especially proud that the tentacles and what they looked like weren't leaked to the press before the film came out. It was also more surprising to the audience. The tentacles were also expensive and in short supply, so security on the set was tight to prevent any from being stolen. Now, I absolutely love the puppetry and CGI in this film from Doc Ock's tentacles. I mean, I've seen some behind the scenes stuff, and like I like the fact that in 2004 they used a lot of CGI already, and I like the fact that they still used like puppetry in this movie. It just looks more realistic.
I can't think of like a single scene in it that really that I was like, that's not real. Like in Spider-Man 1, there's a scene, it's mostly good, but there's a scene where Goblin jumps on his glider at the parade, and that one, you can kind of see in the background, like the shading is a little off where his shadow should be. And then there's also the scene where he breaks through the window to get Jameson, and there's this cut. And if you look at Jameson's face, you can tell it's clearly a stuntman. But it's like noticeable day and night difference. But in Spider-Man 2, I really can't think of any scenes like that.
Maybe like, no, that looks really too. Never mind. Like everything in terms of CGI in Spider-Man 2 is just perfect.
Yeah. And anything that any of the any imperfections that there might be, I didn't see them. That what it might have been is just like, I don't know if I wasn't paying attention or just that they're quick enough where you just miss them.
But oh, I see like the trivia over here that you just said. Like Tobey Maguire is a vegetarian, so for the scene in which he is supposedly eating a hot dog while police cars zoom by, he is in fact eating a tofu hot dog, which is a favorite among vegetarians.
My childhood it's destroyed.
My childhood is a lie.
My life, my entire world it's crushed now.
I better just jump off a building now already while we're at it.
Yeah, it's just it's not getting it's all downhill from here. What did you think of the plot overall?
I think it's a pretty good plot. I mean, Doc Ock's motives are, well, you can understand him. I mean, he's like a man gone crazy because of his dream. And I like that Spider-Man 2 had a message to it, just like the first one. Sometimes we have to give up the thing we want the most.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that all three of these movies have some sort of a message to it. It's just great. It's not just an action movie. It has like a message to it as well. And what do you think of the plot?
Overall, I liked it. I thought that there were a lot of good funny scenes in it. I also liked sort of the New York, like the community feel with New York. How like even though Jameson hates him, how New Yorkers will protect his identity on the train. One part I didn't really like is the ending because, well, I mean, MJ is going to marry John Jameson, and then it's like the guy, he seems like a nice guy, in every scene you see him in. Like, he's nice to her, he's, respectful to her, and then, of course, like, Peter wants to be, but he can't be. And then, up until, like, the very end, like, right after Doc Ock, he comes zooming in, rushes out of the cop car, runs right over to her, and then at the wedding, like, he has everything set up, he's waiting there, and then she just ditches him, and it's like, I get, like, okay, she doesn't love him, whatever, and I can see that, like, you love Peter, but I mean, like, you can't give the guy any notice. I mean, like, you're gonna leave him, like, waiting there?
Yeah, it's just kind of weird to me. I mean, it happens so fast. It's like a cop car, hug, wedding, nope, and then he goes to Peter Parker, and it flies by in like 2 minutes or something. Also, the movie was sent to cinemas under the name Spray Paint to try and avoid the attention of pirates, which I didn't know and I think is quite a funny and interesting trivia.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, these days with piracy and everything, it's kind of sad. The fact that you have to call your Spider-Man 2 movie Spray Paint in order to avoid piracy. But well, that's reality nowadays. All visual effects were completed in 16 weeks, which is, I believe that's a pretty damn long time for just visual effects. But there are a lot of visual effects in this movie, and they all look really great and well, and it's barely noticeable when it's CGI or puppetry.
Yeah, I really liked how they did. There's no point at least with me, where you can like look at, as I said earlier, Doc Ock's arms or really anything and say, that just looks fake. I really like how, I mean, you have him, if you think about it, you have him, Alfred Molina moving on the set, and you have 4 different tentacles all going at once. And to get that right so many times on every scene, it's really pretty impressive to me.
Well, there is this one scene where, like, Spider-Man is on, the Doc Ock throws Spider-Man into the other building on the other side, where they're fighting on the side of the building, with Aunt May being there as well.
Yeah.
And the scene where he swings to the other side, to the other building again, he jumps, like, in the window, and that kind of looked fake. It kind of reminds me of the scene you were talking about earlier, with Green Goblin when he jumps on his glider at the parade. The jump looks kind of fake, but it's not as bad as like the Green Goblin jump. I mean, that one is pretty bad. But here it flies by really quick, and it doesn't really matter. And I mean, the story and everything. Like if this movie was terrible, I'd probably make a big deal about that one scene. But this movie is just so great, and
it's forgivable because of how good everything else is.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
I think if the way they did that, I understand why, because it was like, they want to show Spider-Man in air, and then they want to show Doc Ock getting like the spike ready or whatever. But I can see why you say that it seems fake, because it's like when you have it done that slowly, it's like he's flying in the air for like 10 seconds and still going over there. I sort of would like to see an alternate cut of something where, like, just to see what happens, where Aunt May, for whatever reason, doesn't or isn't able or doesn't see him put the spike up, and then, like, Spider-Man has to use his spider sense and do, like, a flip or something.
Exactly.
To dodge the spike.
Because now he just gets hit by Aunt May, and,
That is a really good scene, though. I really do enjoy that part.
It's, again, like a scene that's almost so bad it's good. But it's, like, also kind of really good. It's, like, it's not bad, but it's also not good. It's extremely hard to explain that scene.
I like it because there's a serious tone. There's like this fight scene. Aunt May's life is in a balance. There's stuff falling on people below, and then it breaks it, and she's just like, "Shame on you." And there's the slow motion of him like, right at the crack in the head.
But a lot of people, there are a lot of theories about Aunt May knowing Peter Parker being Spider-Man. Do you believe in Spider-Man 2, Aunt May knows about Peter being Spider-Man?
I think she found out either in Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3 and just didn't tell him. Because when he says about in 2, there's a scene where he talks about what happened with Uncle Ben, and I think sometime between then and the garage, she kind of figures it out. And I think that you can kind of see that in the third one, where he talks about Spider-Man killed, Sandman last night. And it's like, how would you know? Like, what, do you follow him around, like, climbing the sewers? Like, hey, I was on the train. I think the way she reacts in the third one kind of shows that she did, like, she might have known.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think she found out at the side of the building where, I mean, he was like talking like we got him good or something, and then she's like, "What do you mean we?" I mean, his voice is very recognizable, and I think that's where she found out. But there are also theories about what's this guy's name again? The guy from J. Jonah Jameson's from the Daily Bugle. Like the black guy.
Oh, Robbie?
Yeah, exactly. From the actor who passed away like a few years ago. May you rest in peace. But there are also theories about him knowing Spider-Man, or Peter being Spider-Man. Now, I really don't believe this. I mean, how would he even know this? I mean, there's this scene like where it's like, I heard Spider-Man was there, and he's like looking at him really creepy. I mean, it kind of teases that he knows, but how should he know?
Yeah.
Maybe because of the pictures being surprisingly good and suspiciously good, because if you're just a photographer, a random photographer, you couldn't get to these kind of points and take photos of Spider-Man. But what do you think about that theory?
I don't know if it's canon and everything. I might be misremembering this here, but I believe that in at least some incarnations of Spider-Man, Robbie Robertson was a police officer before he went on to become, work at the Daily Bugle. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's the case at least some of the time. And if that's the thing, having sort of the detective background, plus Peter sort of matching like the height, of course the gender, like the age, and being so close to Spider-Man, I think that might tip Robbie off, but I don't really know. It could, that scene where he's like, I heard Spider-Man was there, it sort of implies that.
Yes.
That might be how.
Yeah, but we don't know if that's canon, of course, and that's actually in the trilogy as well. But I mean, I don't. If it isn't canon about him being a police officer before, I don't think so. If that's canon, it's possible. I'm still not sure then, but I guess we'll never know. But actually, I don't like to know if it's true or not. I mean, I always like theories, and once it's confirmed, you don't really care about the theory anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, then you're like, oh, it's true, and you don't really care because it removes all of the mystery around the plot, so to speak. Like if Sam Raimi goes up on Twitter or something or in an interview and someone asks him, did Aunt May know about Peter being Spider-Man? And he'd say, yes, she did. Then I'd freak out because I would be like, yes, I was right and everything. But I'd also be like, now it's nothing to really talk about anymore like it is now.
Yeah. When you don't have official confirmation either way, it sort of gives you there's this happened. Well, that's true, but this too.
And that's always the problem with theories. Whenever someone confirms it removes the mystery. Like with Alien Covenant, Alien was so mysterious. Everyone loved the fact that it's so mysterious, but then they just explain the origin of the aliens, of the xenomorphs, and it just removes all mystery, and it kind of sucks. And that will probably be the case with Spider-Man 2 if Sam Raimi would go out and be like, Aunt May did actually know about Peter being Spider-Man.
Yeah, it says here that Robbie was a close personal friend. This is of the comics, not the movies. But it says he was a close personal friend of Captain Stacy, and it was implied, but not outright stated, that he deduced his secret identity.
Sam Raimi chose Alfred Molina after Raimi's wife watched Frida. Now, Frida is a movie from 2002 I have absolutely never heard about. It has a 7.4 out of It has 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, so that's not too bad. But he has a role in that. I have absolutely no idea what this movie is, though.
Yeah, I have not heard of that.
But I always kind of laugh when I watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now that I see Alfred Molina dying in that temple in Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know that scene?
Which one?
Like in the beginning when he's like throw me the whip, and then Alfred Molina's character is like throw me the idol, and then Indiana Jones throws the idol, but Alfred Molina's character betrays Indiana Jones and just runs away with the idol.
He's almost like unrecognizable in that scene.
I know, right? I never knew that. As a kid, I was a huge fan. Like, Indiana Jones and Spider-Man are huge parts of my childhood. But I never knew, like, that was Alfred Molina until a few years ago.
I just looked it up now to see what you meant. I'm like, I can barely even recognize him.
And it's not like he looks really old now, but his face has just changed so much.
Yeah. It's also, he has like, in that scene he has like, sort of dirt, and like on his face, and his outfit's just different.
Yeah, and all three movies have like a story for me personally, like a kind of nostalgic story. Like Spider-Man 1, when I think of Spider-Man 1, I think back of at when I first saw it with a friend of mine. I got out of school, like I was 5 years old or something, so it wasn't like a few years ago, but I remember watching it for the first time and immediately falling in love with it, and later having arguments over who would play Green Goblin in, like who would do a role play at school in our breaks and everything, and we'd always have arguments who would play the Green Goblin because we all wanted to be the Green Goblin. But when I think about Spider-Man 2, I immediately think about getting my Spider-Man costume for my birthday when I became like 7 years old, when I turned 7 years old.
Yeah.
It just makes me think of that. Now with Spider-Man 3, I just think back about being on holiday and absolutely binging the shit out of Spider-Man 3 because Spider-Man 3 was my favorite when I was a little kid because it had most action in it.
Yeah.
Now it's my least favorite, but it does have a lot of great action in it, to be honest.
It does. I think it does have sort of like almost at some point like there's too much in it and not enough storytelling. But the action, it really isn't its weak point in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, when I just want to be entertained by Spider-Man movie, I watch Spider-Man 3. I mean, it's in some scenes it's like so bad it's good. I mean, Emo Peter Parker, you just gotta love that. It's so bad that it's funny.
Or at least as like a Spider-Man movie, because I mean, Spider-Man 1 and 2 they sort of go back and forth, furthering like how Peter's becoming Spider-Man, and how the villain is progressing with their plan. Like Green Goblin is like kidnapping, he's trying to interrogate Jameson, or like the Thanksgiving scene, or with Doc Ock, how he's robbing a bank, And with Spider-Man 3, I don't know why, but it just seems like, okay, now I'm Spider-Man, now we broke up, and now I'm evil, and now he's like fighting Harry, and then like, for some reason, Eddie Brock's in church, like that's okay. He doesn't really seem like a type of guy to really do that. So like he seems like, I mean, And then there's the one crane scene, which kind of comes out of nowhere. And then, like, there's just the whole 5-minute sequence of him dancing on the street.
Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man 3 is well known, partially because of, like, the so bad it's good stuff. But, like, what I was telling earlier about having stories with all 3 films, do you have that too, with, like, the 3 films?
I can definitely in the first 1 and 2, I can get but they have sort of, I can understand the story, and then also, like, not just the story, but almost like a lesson that it has in the movie. With the third one, not really as much as, like, because I get, like, watch you, like, sort of be careful what you wish for, or maybe, like, the, be careful of your mistakes come back to haunt you, I guess, but not really as much as the first 2, as to me at least, of a clear, definitive, sort of story that's trying to give the viewer.
Okay, I mean, all 3 films have Peter narrating something, and all have, like, messages, but the messages in the first 2 are handled so much better than in the third one. And the reason why the message isn't that clear in the third one, I blame that on Sony, because the message is something with, like, humanity and everything, and how, people can go crazy. But then you have Venom, and that's not a human, that's like an alien. And originally Sam Raimi didn't want to, but every fucking Arad, that douchebag, he needed to fucking throw Venom down the shitter into fucking Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I had heard that, like, they sort of just forced Venom to be in the movie, even though there's really no room for him.
No, and
because I think Spider-Man 3 would be a lot better if it had 2 villains instead of 1, because I think it could have handled that well. Because Harry throughout the trilogy had a good story arc. Like, in the first one, he's like, he's sort of irresponsible and he's screwing around. He's not that good of a friend. And then the second one, he's like, he hates Spider-Man, and he finds out, that it's Peter, and then he's going through all this, like, pretty much just like almost like a mental breakdown, because his best friend is also his worst enemy. And then the third one, having, Venom and then all that, it's sort of crowded, and to me, sort of just ruins it a little bit.
And originally it was going to be like Spider-Man 3 Part 1 and Spider-Man 3 Part 2. But of course, Sony didn't want to do that. And, well, Sam Raimi had to put everything in just one movie. I mean, there's so much going on. It's such a big mess. And
I mean, everything you have going on. There's like, Harry takes the serum, then Harry attacks Peter, Harry loses memory, Harry regains it, Harry hates Spider-Man, then Harry's friends with Spider-Man, then Harry dies. With Sandman, it's like he escapes from prison, he gets his powers, he robs, he attacks Spider-Man. With Venom, it's like, the alien symbiote comes down, Spider-Man gets in, and there's just all this stuff going on. There's like, MJ breaks up with Spider-Man, and then she's like flirting with Harry or something, and all this stuff back and forth. It's hard to just kind of nail down what's going on.
Also, I mean, the potential, really when you think about all the potential some of the things in Spider-Man 3 had, are, again, thrown down the fucking shitter. I mean, Spider-Man 2 started Dr. Kurt Connors as the Lizard, and we would have seen that in Spider-Man 4 probably. And I think Spider-Man 4 would have been a great film. I mean, they probably I hope Every Red wouldn't do too much to the screenplay, wouldn't get his slimy little hands on Sam Raimi's screenplay. But Spider-Man 4 unfortunately never happened. I would have loved to see, wow, voice crack. I would have loved to see like the Lizard, Dr. Kurt Connors becoming the Lizard in Spider-Man 4. But the potential the Lizard had, again, was thrown down the shitter. The potential Gwen Stacy had too. The Venom, all of that was thrown down the shitter, man. And
I heard Mysterio and Lizard probably would have been the two villains if they had two.
yeah, and Mysterio would have been played by Bruce Campbell, which I would have loved to see.
That would have been a good. I think that would have been really good because of how he was previously set up. Like he played the ring announcer in Spider-Man 1. He played there's I can't think of the word, the doorman, I guess, in the second, and then in the third he played the restaurant manager.
Yeah, and I would have loved to see him like Mysterio and being all like, "I've been following you my entire life," or some line like that would have been extremely funny to me because he has all these cameos in the other ones. It's kind of like how Stan Lee is the Watcher in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, how he has been kind of watching the Avengers his life now. It's just great to me.
Yeah.
And they could have done something with that in Spider-Man 4 with Bruce Campbell being Mysterio.
I would have enjoyed to see. I enjoyed seeing a Spider-Man 4 movie. I sort of had this idea. I know it wouldn't work, but sort of like how Call of Duty games work, where there are 3 studios, and each year each studio makes their own video game, and you'll have 3 years. They'll each have 3 years to make a game, and then Studio A will make one, say 2015, and the next studio makes one 2016, and then 2017, and then it'll be back to the first studio. And I had sort of an idea that they could have done that with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, just to sort of, I mean, I know it wouldn't work, but I would sort of like to see that, just to see how each of them would go on to progress as a series.
That would have been actually, it wouldn't work. I don't want it to be reality, but if I had a Infinity Stone to get in different realities, I would have loved to see that.
Yeah. Just to kind of see how it plays out, because I mean, with in Amazing Spider-Man 2, originally they were gonna have Mary Jane in it, but they just cut all the scenes, which was I would have liked to see how that played out.
And I mean, just like with Jake Gyllenhaal playing Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2, I mean, I wouldn't want it to be reality, but I would have just liked to see how that would have worked out, Man, I also wanted to say something else, but I just totally forgot what I wanted to say.
Would you rather have seen probably, of the 3, Spider-Man, assuming you could only get one, would you rather see Spider-Man 4, Amazing Spider-Man 3 to see if it could redeem itself, or a Spider-Man Homecoming sequel? If you could only get one of them to continue.
Spider-Man 4 any day of my life. Any day. I mean, Spider-Man, the trilogy, will always have a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to see the trilogy continue, and I mean, it never happened, unfortunately. But still, I would have loved to see that. And the Amazing Spider-Man 3, I really don't care. I mean, the potential, everything that was set up in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's kind of cool. I mean, you get Doc Ock again. I mean, we we've already kind of seen it before, you know. And I would have loved to see Sam Raimi like continue the trilogy by making it, well, the series by making a fourth one. I once actually. No, go on.
I actually sort of like different elements from each of them. Like in Homecoming, I liked sort of the storytelling to it. How how he's more of a kid in a way. Like he's still learning. I like that he's still in school in that. I like in Amazing Spider-Man the web shooters, how they work. I thought the sound effects for those and sort of like the visuals work better. And I also preferred the mechanical web shooters to in Raimi with the organic webs. But then in Raimi, I like the humor, how the comedy worked in that.
Also, my favorite part about Spider-Man Homecoming and Tom Holland's performance is the fact that he reminds me of Marty McFly. And if I had to cast like the Avengers in the 80s, I've always wanted no, not Marty McFly, like what's his name again? Michael J. Fox. I would have also always liked Michael J. Fox as Spider-Man, and Tom Holland kind of reminds me, like his performance reminds me of Marty McFly. Or
yeah, I can definitely see what you mean with the school dance. Sort of has like the same atmosphere as
exactly.
Back to the Future.
Also, I really love. Never mind. But I once wrote like a little screenplay for like a final battle in Spider-Man 4 with Peter Parker or Spider-Man fighting the Vulture, because the Vulture was also considered as a villain. But my screenplay, his death scene, would have been pretty fucking cool. I mean, he flies away, but there were like some storyboards published on the internet for Spider-Man 4, and one shows like the Vulture flying up in the sky and a helicopter being there as well. And my screenplay, well, my really terrible little screenplay, in that screenplay I wrote his death scene, like only that, being his wings get stuck in the helicopter and Spider-Man shoots his web to like save him from getting like all fucked up in the helicopter and everything. But it doesn't work, and he goes like through the helicopter, and I made it pretty fucking bloody and everything. But in the movie they probably wouldn't do that death scene. I mean, they probably make him turn good at the last second, you know.
Chop up like a bird at a plane engine.
Just like in every movie. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our new channel. We'll see you guys in the next video. Next week we'll be discussing what movie again?
Speed with Keanu Reeves.
Amazing action film. I absolutely love that film. So be on the lookout for that. Also make sure to check out our personal channels. Ron's channel being called Ron Adams. Links in the description. And my channel being called EmoPeterParker. Yeah, we'll see you next week in the Speed podcast. See you guys.
See ya.